Dear parents, I would like to welcome you to this informative presentation on effective home study. Due to the COVID-19 present situation, we have prepared this presentation for you in the hope that we will give you an insight as to how you can help your children adopt effective home study habits, which will eventually lead them to acquire effective study skills. My name is Irene Petrou and I'm head of year 1, which means I'm responsible for the pastoral care of the pupils in all the year 1 classes. I usually offer advice, encouragement, and act as a problem solver when the need arises. I also cooperate efficiently with all form teachers of year 1, and I also ensure the good conduct and behavior of children in year 1 and assist in promoting good order in the school. Mainly, my job is to work with you, with the parents, for any problem or concern you may have regarding your children. One of the most important people in your child's school life is definitely their form teacher. Mr. Konstantinos Konstantinou is the form teacher for 1A, Miss Flora Mariou is the form teacher for 1B, and Miss Maria Garonia is the form teacher of 1C. These people see your children every day for 10 minutes. These are the people who check their uniform, their appearance, they give them letters and notices to bring home, and they are also the people who make announcements and discuss any issues of concern that your children may have. This slide brings us to the beginning of the effective home study presentation. It is very important that both you as parents and us as teachers to instill in your children's mind the notion that the reason they study is because they want to, not because they have to. They need to understand that they study for themselves, for their own success, for their own personal, emotional, and cognitive development, as well as for the achievement of their own dreams, as they will adopt in the long run habits and skills that will accompany them for life. In order for us to do that, your children need to develop a growth mindset. Growth mindset is the belief basically that each person's abilities and intelligence are things that develop and grow with effort. The teachers try to embed this belief in each child on a daily basis through their teaching, their comments and feedback, either oral or written. This is not enough though. That is where your essential part and contribution comes in. You need to also encourage your child to never give up when a difficulty or challenge arises, but to always try to be resourceful and find ways to overcome it. Which brings us to the next slides. The majority of children at this age are in a fixed mindset mode. This means that they feel that their abilities and qualities are static and cannot be developed in any real meaningful way. They might say things like, "This is way too hard, she's so smart, I will never be that smart, I'm not good at this, this is good enough, or I made a mistake." They say these things because they honestly feel this inadequacy in completing a challenging task or feeling overwhelmed when they are faced with a new skill they need to undertake. Even saying "I'm awesome at this" is an example of a fixed mindset, because the child who says this feels and really believes that exactly because they're awesome, there is no room for improvement, so they don't even bother to try harder and improve more. However, when they make such comments, jump in and give them comments like, this may take some time and effort, don't worry, or I'm going to sit here with you until we figure this out, or just think about it again. Is there something else you're missing? Is this your best work? Don't worry, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes help you learn better. Or comments like, you can always improve. There's always room for improvement. These encouraging comments coming from you will gradually make them feel more confident in their abilities, more determined to overcome their weaknesses. It does make a lot of difference in their minds, and little by little, it will become part of their thinking process, and they will gradually switch from a fixed mindset mode to a growth mindset one. So it is in your hands too to help them change this. According to an American professor and researcher, Carol Dweck, who is known for her work on the power of mindset, people who have a growth mindset reach much higher levels of achievement and success as they perceive failure as a chance to learn and view critical feedback as a chance to improve, as opposed to fixed mindset people who view failure as permanent and view critical feedback as personal attack. The most frequent question we get from you every year is, how should your children study? Well, there is no one correct answer, and the reason is because we are all different types of learners. Most of us are visual learners, that is, we learn by seeing things. A good number of us are auditory learners, which means that we learn best by hearing. And some of us are kinesthetic learners, which means we learn best by feeling or experiencing. This slide shows exactly how people learn. A very small percentage of people learn through taste, a slightly higher percentage through touch and smell, an 11% through hearing, and the highest being 83% of people who learn through sight. Undoubtedly, learning is important. An equally significant skill, though, is being able to remember or retain information. A recent study done on how much children can retain showed the following results. According to the study, children can retain 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear at the same time, 70% of what they say as they talk, and 90% of what they say as they do something. Now just imagine how much they can learn or retain by combining all these senses together, all these combinations of ways together. Now you may be wondering what this means to you. Well, it means that we all learn through different combinations of ways. So do your children. It means that we all retain the most information when a variety of ways was used when we first received the information given to us. So do your children. And that is the reason why all teachers in our school try to devise our lessons in such a way that we can accommodate for as many combinations of learner styles as possible. It is very important that whatever children learn pass from their short-term memory which only stores small amounts of information, to the long-term memory, which stores large amounts of information for an amazingly long time. In order for this to happen, though, children first need to understand the information, to encode it, so that they can store it in their long-term memory and thus be able at a later stage, at a later point of time, to retrieve it, to retain it, to remember it. This slide shows a line chart of the memory curve. Looking at the green line, which represents the learning curve, we can see that each time your child reviews their material, they create permanent knowledge. The more they learn and the more they can retain. On the contrary, looking at the purple line, which represents the forgetting curve, retention of material decreases as the number of times your children review their school material decreases. To cut a long story short, after learning something, your children's memory of it will decline over time unless they review it. The more they review, the stronger they make the memory, and thus the longer they can remember it. When exposed to the same material repeatedly, it will take them less time to pull the information from their long-term memory. As you can see on the slide, there are various factors that do affect your children's memory curve. Such factors are the difficulty of the material, how meaningful the material was to them or is to them, how the material was learned, if the material was frequently learned, reviewed, or remembered, and surely physiological factors like stress and sleep. In the next few slides, we will suggest some methods or tricks, if you would like, that will help your children learn, retain, and retrieve information faster and more efficiently. Such devices are acronyms and mnemonics. Your child might be having a great difficulty in remembering the sequence of hues commonly described as making up a rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So by using the acronym ROY, G, BIV, they can easily remember the sequence of the colors making up a rainbow. Or they can use mnemonics to remember the order of the planets. By making up silly sentences like "My very elegant mother just served us nachos," it will be much easier for them to remember that the initial letter of each word in that silly sentence represents the letter by which the planet begins with. M for Mercury, V for Venus, E for Earth, M for Mars, and so on. Repetition is another device that your children can use in order to learn something. By reviewing it over and over again, it's going to be much easier for them to retain that information later on. Grouping and organizing information into categories also helps to retain information more efficiently and faster. Some children find flashcards very, very helpful. By creating flashcards, you break information down into smaller parts and focus on key points. Imagery and visualization is another device they can use. Pleasant or strange interactions or sensory details help children remember best. Because we do believe that taking good notes in class helps your child learn and retain information faster, we do suggest that you make sure that your child goes to class prepared. Encourage them and help them to develop a note-taking method that works for them. And also review and edit their notes every time. This is a question that we get from pupils as well as from parents. Why does your child get homework? Well, because we believe that practice makes perfect. How much homework is enough? In year 1, an hour to 1 hour and a half of homework every day is more than enough. If your child spends a lot less time on their homework, it might be an indication that they are not doing something they are supposed to do. On the other hand, if they study a lot more than an hour and a half, we suggest that you should look into it. They are definitely doing something wrong. They might be reading, but they might not be studying. So what is your responsibility when it comes to helping them finish their homework? Make sure and insist that your child has their assignments noted down in the homework diary and cross out each assignment as it is completed. Also, encourage them to ask questions if they don't understand the assignment. Make sure your child is using the proper materials to complete the homework. Make sure you remember to sign their homework diary and make sure they bring it to school the next day. I consider the homework diary as a channel of communication. You can use it to write down messages for the form teacher or the subject teacher, and the subject teacher or the form teacher or myself will use the homework diary to give you messages on your child's progress or anything else we feel that you need to know. Also, as a 5th point, don't forget to reward progress made. We should not only tell them off for things they haven't done or omitted or forgot to do. We should also reward them for doing things right. Time management is an issue that usually parents complain about as their children seem to be struggling with. You also encourage them to use their homework diary to write down all activities and due dates. Start with the homework that is due the next day, so that their day won't be loaded with unnecessary studying. Schedule study time in advance. That is, go home, eat, rest, and begin studying. You as parents need to make sure that they turn off their mobile phones, TV sets, computers, and that they are sitting in a noise-free area. No distractions, no temptations. Help them to understand the importance of estimating how long each assignment will take before even attempting it. Fix them or make sure they have a healthy snack next to where they're sitting. No excuse to get up. Encourage them to start with their least favorite assignment. By doing that, they get it out of the way when they are fresh and high-spirited. By the end of their studying time, they will only be left with their most favorite assignments to complete. You should also stress the importance that even when there is no homework assigned for a particular subject on a specific day, they need and they must spend around 10 to 15 minutes reviewing the lesson of that day. During Effective Study Skills Week, your children were given this calendar and they were encouraged to complete their activities program and school study plan. I will try to give you a demonstration of how you can help your children fill it in. Let's say your child has football training on Thursdays and Mondays. You need to go and complete all the Thursdays and Mondays that your child goes to football training. Let's say they also have art lessons or ballet or any other activities that they are doing on a Wednesday. You should go and complete all the Wednesdays. By doing that, your child has a visual indication of what their monthly schedule is comprised of. Now let's imagine their English teacher comes and tells them that they're having an English test on the 20th. And their maths teacher tells them that they are having a test on the 23rd. Make them highlight or circle those two tests. Again, they visually stand out, so they'll know that these 2 days are special because they're having tests on those days. Because it is only the beginning of the year and your children are definitely facing trouble in planning their studying session, spend time with them to get them organized until they're ready to do so on their own. Teachers announce tests for their lessons at least a week before, so you need to make sure that you organize your child's studying time way earlier than the actual test day. By doing so, you are allowing your child to revise properly for the test. They will have enough time to make notes, to study them in sections, and to revise section by section again and again, so that on the day before the test, they can make their final revision. Remember what we said about revising. The more times children revise the material, the more they will retain on the day of the test. Don't forget that they will also be having their outside of school activities as well as their daily homework to complete and worry about. So time management is a skill that you must help your children acquire. Here are some tips that you can remind your children of on the day of the test. Remind them not to use erasable pens since the ink tends to evaporate in high temperatures. Make sure that you tell them that they should label all parts of their tests and not to forget their name. They should also answer all the questions, and please tell them that if they're not sure about a question, they should put a question mark next to it and go back to that question later. Also, remind them to begin with the section they want to get out of the way. They should pace themselves if the test is timed, which usually is. Double check each answer and stress the fact that finishing first does not mean that they have the best mark. Your contribution in our effort to make your children happy young people and successful students is invaluable. We both need to inspire them to have goals. We need to make them have a positive attitude to learning and school, to teach them that commitment and interest in learning pays off, and that they should always be willing to go beyond their comfort zone, because that's where magic really happens. Let's both help them to develop a growth mindset. Every time they say, "I'm not good at this," and "I give up," you say, "Use a different strategy." When they say, "I can't make this any better," we'll say, "You can always improve." When they're frustrated that plan A didn't work, you can always say, "There's always a plan B." Dear parents, this is the end of the presentation. If you feel that you still have questions or concerns, you can contact me or Ms. Despina Yoyo, the head teacher, through the school reception. Leave a message for us and we'll call you back as soon as we can. Thank you for your time and patience. And mostly, I would like to thank you for entrusting us with your most precious possessions.